Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GridNet for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on public.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Wrap-Up. Joe Samaniego here, along with Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish and Adam Lemeries. We'll be discussing Formula One, INDYCAR, and NASCAR in that order. But before we get started, we'd like to thank our Patreon subscribers, calling the show Mark and Robin, for keeping us on the air all year long. And, of course, you too can invest in the Grid Network through our Patreon page or buy me a coffee. And we encourage everyone tuning in. Participate in the chat room. We'll love to answer your questions on the air. I already see we got one as well, too, from Day in the Live asking, good day of racing. It's been going to be on the air right now, as far as we know. Ben, who is just right here, he's in the media center. Of course, he's over there, but definitely we encourage everyone to share your comments, opinions, and questions on the air with us. Love to hear what you have to say. And we're going to get started with Azerbaijan Grand Prix. A lot of people thought it was going to be the crazy race, especially the last couple of years where we had safety cars, red flags, memorable moments, including Lewis Hamilton missing out on that win, which could have easily been the deciding point for the championship when you think about those valuable points he lost out. But today, Red Bull 1-2 with Perez taking the fastest lap and Verstappen taking the win. So he becomes the sixth different winner to win at the Baku city circuit. And one of the big things, of course, all weekend long we saw Perez. He was faster throughout most of the practice sessions, qualified ahead. But when it came to the race pace, Verstappen is just on another level, just pulling away from Sergio Perez. Despite the team saying no fighting, still it looked like a clean pass for the lead, pulled away, and Sergio Perez said he was the better driver that day. He deserved a win. So overall, Red Bull, they have won 5 in a row. They have 3 1-2 finishes and 2 1-3 finishes in the last few races. Adam, starting with you, is this the strongest Red Bull team we have seen in the last 10 years?
Absolutely, Joe. If you want to win the F1 World Driving Championship this year, you're going to have to go through Red Bull to take it. Max Verstappen Max Verstappen is the defending F1 World Champion. But Joe, you mentioned his teammate, Sergio Checo Perez. You want a championship underdog? I would go with Sergio Checo Perez. One little slip up from Max Verstappen, and the championship is there for the taking for Checo. After he signed his contract extension at Red Bull for 2 more years, it seems like he had so much momentum going forward. To me, Red Bull right now is in a league of their own in Formula One. Max Verstappen and Sergio Checo Perez, you're going to have to find a way to get around those two for the F1 World Drivers' Championship. It's their championship to lose.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Adam. And this is Red Bull's world, and we're just living in it. And we have a comment in the chat room, I believe. If that can be displayed on the screen, yeah, right there. A day in the life says Ferrari should have won with the strategy that they had. Well, sometimes things just happened out of their control, and it was just one of those days for Ferrari where nothing just went their way, and it was an all Red Bull day. Max Verstappen getting the win, Sergio Perez, and I believe I said this after he won the Monaco Grand Prix. Sergio Perez is performing the best we've ever seen him so far in his Formula One career. He's definitely in the prime of his career right now, and I think Perez, if Max Verstappen potentially has some slip up and Perez continues with the consistency, maybe just maybe Checo could be in contention to win the Formula One World Championship. But if we get down to late in the season and it's a Verstappen versus Perez battle, I think it's going to be really interesting to follow that and see how Red Bull is going to manage that. Are they going to just let them race, or could there be team orders in play? And for everyone's sake, I'm sure everyone really wants to see this championship go down to the wire, just like it did last year between Hamilton and Verstappen, and I think it would be extremely intriguing to see a pair of Red Bull teammates duke it out for the title late in the 2022 FIA Formula One World Championship season.
That'll be very excited. Fans will be going all over the place. They were to see the two Red Bulls without team orders contending. A couple of comments in the chat room as well from Mike Tillier. Yes, Red Bull is on top of their game for Verstappen and Perez. What a team, especially considering last year people were starting to question Perez before Azerbaijan, the Baku City Circuit. He comes out, gets that win. Now he's looking really strong. And then, of course, we're going to go to NASCAR later. But from Ben, who is at Sonoma, no issues in tech. Suarez win is official. So big day of motorsports. We're going to get to NASCAR in a little bit. But, of course, with Formula One, the first race of the morning, very early. If you're in the Pacific, that was a 4 a.m. start time. And for my friends in Alaska, 3 a.m. start time to watch that Formula One race. Boy, that is an early wake-up call. But one of the things, if you're a Ferrari fan, you probably would have wanted to sleep then because a double DNF with engine issues. The other two cars that were out of this race with engine issues, they were also Ferrari powered as well. In the post-race, Sam Collins said Ferrari might be nearing a grid drop penalty with their engine issues. The turbochargers must come from the engines that were raced in Spain or Baku. And since Australia, Ferrari has not been running at the level they've been going at, having these DNFs, if they were to get a brand new turbocharger, a 10-place grid penalty in that next race could be the Canadian Grand Prix. So Ferrari, they're going to be looking at turbocharger from either the Spain or the Baku City Circuit engine. If they could use that the next race, they could avoid that grid penalty. But if they can't and they have to get a brand new one, a 10-place grid penalty, and that will hurt them because, as I mentioned, they've been losing points. And when you look at the F1 ratings from the grid, Charles Leclerc has gone from first to fourth, and he is getting near the bottom, whereas you can see Carlos Sainz, he could almost fall off the top five, not be in the grid ranking. So Ferrari has really seemed to lost their pace compared to what they had earlier this season. And definitely this is just something we're going to be watching. Kobe, all the teams, they're now heading to Canada. We've been going essentially almost every week. Could Ferrari fall further behind? Are they still equal to Red Bull, especially when it comes to pace? It's just the reliability is not there yet.
Well, Joe, I think Ferrari is very close to Red Bull on pace. I think they might be just a little bit better overall than Red Bull on pace, but not by much. But like you said, I think the major issue is really the reliability, and we've seen Red Bull have some reliability issues. Now Ferraris haven't having them, but right now I think the momentum is definitely swung in Red Bull's favor, and Ferrari's gonna have to try to get on a roll starting in Canada because otherwise think Red Bull is just going to keep on rolling. Verstappen and Perez is going to keep stacking points. I know right now Verstappen and Perez are doing extremely well right now in the constructors. While today was a double disaster for Ferrari with both Sainz and Leclerc retiring from the race. So I think Ferrari is going to have to try to get their act together really fast to try to make sure that they keep up with Red Bull because if Ferrari goes to Montreal and has another double DNF or a day like they had today, not finishing the points, Red Bull is gonna start marching up the road and they're gonna get left behind at the bus stop, to say the least.
say the least. And a couple more comments in the chat room. Ferrari engines are in the mud yesterday. Not just two, but four Ferrari power cars DNF. Joe, three DNFs in four races. He's very unlucky. He was having a good run, outpacing Bottas up there towards, I believe, 10th place when he had to go out. Tough break for him. Day in the life, the engine might be showing their weakness. We're starting to get further into the season compared to the first few races in the season. Still going to be really interesting to see. And then Mike Tiller, I legit hurt for Ferrari. Sainz due to a brake by wire failure. Leclerc due to a blown engine. That hurts. And of course, we know with the salary caps and everything, it is really hurting. Another one. After Joe DNF from the race, I was like, imagine if Haas was going to have an issue and came and became the next victim. Well, then we saw what happened to Haas. It was just Ferrari, a day they want to forget at Baku. For George Russell, a day he doesn't mind forgetting about. He got third place, and he is continuing his streak of top five finishes. And of course, we're going to the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal. Interesting thing with George Russell, he only has one start there, and he finished 16th, of course, with Williams. This is a track where Max Verstappen has not won at yet. The last Red Bull victory in Canada was in 2014 with Daniel Ricciardo and Lewis Hamilton. He has won 4 of the last 5 races in Canada. Adam, could Canada be the hardest race for Russell to keep his top 5 streak going?
Yes, I do believe so. And let our viewers know the porpoising effect that the Mercedes cars have had, it really hurt Lewis. If you didn't see the race, Lewis Hamilton struggled to get out of his car. He had major pain in his back, and he doesn't even know if he'll be able to compete at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for the Canadian Grand Prix. George Russell, you mentioned Joe, he only had one start there, but Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal has a lot of tight corners. And the track is named after one of the most successful racers to come from Canada. Gilles Villeneuve unfortunately died in an F1 accident. So really nice to see F1 going back to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve outside of Montreal next weekend. I know all the Canadians are very happy, and we could see some U.S. citizens make the trip up to Canada for the race as well. It's going to be interesting to see if Lewis Hamilton can race due to his pain in his back after what happened in Azerbaijan earlier today.
Before I get to the next question, a couple of comments as well. Salary cap, I think, is unfair. And then another one, salary cap similar to NFL cap for smaller teams. Kobe, would you like to answer these questions from the day in life and Michael Tillier?
Well, Formula One put the salary cap in place to really control the team spending because sometimes when you're really spending too much money, it's actually really bad for business. But I think the salary cap is really going to hurt a team like Haas right now. Mick Schumacher, he's had some really big accidents. Saudi Arabia and then Monaco, spending millions of dollars to try to repair that car. It's really hard for smaller teams like Haas, when you keep having issues like that. So Mick Schumacher, I'm sure he's probably on a short leash right now with Gunther Steiner to not tear up those Haas F1 cars moving forward. Or Kevin Magnussen, he's been unlucky as well at certain points. And if Haas keeps tearing up equipment, salary cap, and the money that adding up is gonna really put a squeeze on Haas. And to be honest with you, I don't really know what the right solution is. I understand Formula One wants to try to keep costs reasonable. So as I said, so they're not overspending, and it's getting really ridiculous in terms of money. But it's just a really tricky situation overall.
very tricky situation overall in the chat room. Point taken, Kobe. Honestly, thought I don't think this is Sir Lewis' year. This is definitely not his year. But as mentioned earlier, George Russell is very impressive. Top 5 every time. I hope he gets a first place finish sometime. That's going to be a very popular win, I feel, when that does happen. If that does happen this year, that Mercedes, the porpoising effect, we heard some people talking about, yeah, they could fix it if they raise the car height a little bit. But of course, Mercedes didn't want to because that'll compromise the performance. So a lot going on when it comes to the Mercedes. And of course, Verstappen over in the Red Bull, he now leads Sergio Perez in the points. Sergio Perez is up to second. Then we have Leclerc, Russell, and Sainz rounding out the top 5. Red Bull has an 80-point lead over Ferrari in the constructors, and they're 118 ahead of Mercedes. The championship is still young. We're only 8 races out of 23 completed. And next race weekend in Canada, then we have a break before Silverstone. We know what happened to Verstappen the last time we were in Silverstone and all the attention that brought to the sport. Some teams, though, it seems like this stretch has been a little bit rough, including Alfa Romeo. They had a great start to the year. Valtteri Bottas, no points this weekend. Aston Martin, they had a rough start to the year, but it seems like they're getting a little bit better compared to Haas. They had a dream start to the season, but the last few races, as you mentioned, Kobe, especially in Monaco with Mick Schumacher crashing, then the DNFs today, they seem to be losing ground over the last few rounds. So, Kobe, starting with you, is this intense schedule of so many races in such short time hurting the teams? And is everyone's now starting to show signs of weakness except Red Bull?
Oh yeah, and I remember when we were talking about this Formula One schedule before the season even started, we said it could potentially cause burnout, and I believe that's going to happen as we get later on into the season because there's not a lot of time to to look over everything from the previous race, try to make changes before the next race, and try to make sure that the car is ready to go. It's just really difficult for all of these teams running week after week in Formula One. And obviously it's more challenging since these teams are traveling from country to country all over the world. And got a comment there from Michael Tiller saying that your fingers are crossed as much as you root for Max. You want to see competition. That's why you rooted for Perez to win this race. Though Max definitely earned a yeah, as we've been saying, it was definitely a Red Bull day in Baku, Azerbaijan, but it's going to be interesting later on in the season as I said, as the potential burnout potentially increases and we start to see a lot more mistakes from teams, just some other drivers struggling. It's definitely going to be a grind until we get down to the season finale in Abu Dhabi.
A Day in Life says too many races. I have to agree with that. And Kobe, you mentioned teams getting burnt out. I'm kind of glad that there's a break in between Canada and the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. It gives time that the F1 community gets to spend time with their families. They don't, they won't be at the track and they can enjoy home life. I think, with this schedule, it doesn't give a lot of these teams, to be home, enjoying time with their families. I know everyone's going to probably be burnt out after Abu Dhabi later on this year. I think F1 should have some gaps in, but at least a couple weeks. A couple week break or even a summer break like they're doing this year. So F1 teams can spend time with their families, away from the track, and enjoy home life.
Definitely is a lot racing considering next week you're going to be in Canada. You're going from Azerbaijan through Europe to Canada, North America. That is a lot of traveling. And if you're in Ferrari to make those repairs, that is just, I think, as Day in Life said, too much. And another comment from him. Thank goodness they still have the summer break after Hungary. So definitely, I think it's something where it'll be really interesting to see what happens as the season progresses. If those other teams will start falling behind, or maybe Red Bull, if they start showing some signs of weakness when another team starts to get their act going together. And of course, Formula One, it's a long season, but there's still a lot of time going on. Before we go into IndyCar, definitely want to do a driver spotlight, taking a look at some of the racers all around the world, starting with the African American Racers Association, where you could follow their website. Bubba Wallace, unfortunately, his day came to an early end. Ernie Francis Jr., he finished 10th today in a Indy Lights race that was delayed due to a serious crash where we saw the car go into the catch fence. Thankfully, everyone was okay, but that catch fence, long repairs right before the IndyCar race. So there was a lot of repairs that they had to do. And thankfully, the IndyCar race got done on time. And then the Indy Lights did proceed on. Women racers, we had a lot of females racing all over the world, including 5 in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, including the Iron Dames and Sophia Flörsch. Not pictured is Lelou Wadu in the Richard Mille #1, 9th place finish at LMP2. Also not pictured, Amber Balkan, a 3rd straight top 10 finish in Iowa, and Tony Brenniger just missed out with an 11th place finish. We encourage you to check out Ben Schneider's Twitter for a post-race interview with Bridget Burgess after the race at Sonoma. And of course, encourage everyone to visit racersbehindthehelmet.com. And of course, Racing Pride for the engineer in Alfa Romeo, just missing out on the points. But we encourage everyone to be sure to visit racingpride.com and support all the ambassadors from the LGBTQA community racing around the world. And speaking about racers from around the world, some of the best racers like McLaughlin, Grosjean, Ilott, they were all in Road America, one of the premier road courses in the world.
Yeah, IndyCar visited the longest and fastest road course on the schedule, Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. The site of today's Sonsio Grand Prix and the site of $1 Million Newgarden taking the win. Josef Newgarden got the People Ready Force for Good Challenge $1 Million bonus for becoming the first driver to win at an oval, street course, and road course this season, scoring big points over Will Power, Alex Palou, and Pato O'Ward, all having issues today and finishing down the running order. This was Newgarden's 3rd win of the year, but without his pit crew getting the job done on pit road, there's a chance today's result might have come up short. Was the lead change on pit road the defining moment of Newgarden's race?
Absolutely. And pretty cool to see what Josef Newgarden did today, earning $1 million, $1 million for winning on an oval, road course, and street course. That's not easy to do in one season. And I mentioned yesterday on the show, pit strategy would be a factor, and it was a factor today. Josef Newgarden got around Alexander Rossi, who started on pole, who ran strong all day long. Unfortunately, came up short in 3rd place. Right now, Josef so the pit road strategy that Josef Newgarden had, it worked for him, and it gave him the win today in Road America. That was a very smart decision by Josef Newgarden's pit crew at the race.
That was one defining moment. However, Rossi still had opportunities with those late restarts to try and get that win away from Josef Newgarden. It was just a case where Newgarden, that clean air, he was really hard to beat. But it really shows the importance of the pit stops. Yes, Rossi had to stop for a quick second, but that was all that took. And then after they exited the pits, we saw Rossi was just on the push of path trying to catch up to Newgarden, but it was just not happening. So it was definitely one of the defining moments, but still Rossi had a couple opportunities, just didn't capitalize to make it happen.
Yeah, Rossi wasn't able to capitalize there. And you brought up a good point, Joe. Rossi had 2 more opportunities to try to get Josef Newgarden, but I think Josef just had the better car right there. at the end, and Rossi made a mistake trying to push so hard at that final restart that he lost the run up position to the Indianapolis 500 champion this year, Marcus Ericsson. It was just really job well done by Josef Newgarden, Team Penske on the track. With Newgarden behind the wheel and the Team Penske pit crew, that was really a wonderful pit stop. Got him out ahead of Alexander Rossi, and that proved to be the difference at the end of the day. And we have a comment in the chat room, I believe, from Michael Tiller, say you hated the fact that you were right on your guess of DNFs and then some. 5 DNFs isn't easy, but it is Baku. Yeah, that's right, Michael. Definitely Baku. Probably a more tamer Baku than we're used to. We're used to it going absolutely bonkers and a lot of chaos, but I guess it was chaotic if you're a fan of or Scuderia Ferrari, because that was a really bad day for both Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz Jr. And getting back to IndyCar, Joe, I believe you mentioned clean air being really important when the field got spread out. Overtaking was really difficult, and I think that clean air really helped Joseph Newgarden, and having a fast car also helps out as well. In the first full lap under green didn't occur until lap 7. We saw a total of 3 full course cautions before lap 10, including Jimmy Johnson on the last lap for looping it and stalling. This allowed several teams to try an off-cycle strategy with field, including Felix Rosenqvist, Graham Rahal, Kyle Kirkwood, and Takuma Sato. In the end, cautions threw field mileage out of the race, and we saw some very hard racing early. During those first 10 laps, they were racing like it was the last lap, to be honest. So, Joe, how disruptive were the early cautions, and did those who pitted early really have a legitimate shot at the win?
It was disrupted as if there was no flow to the race. We kept going back to restart. Of course, single file restarts, no double file restarts, but it was just what 2 quick cautions. We didn't complete a full lap of green. This is where you saw teams decide, okay, let's go off cycle, especially where we're going to have more cautions. The big thing was for those drivers like Felix Rosenqvist, Kyle Kirkwood that did pit early, the 2 ways they could have won. A, it continued to go all the way to the green and just that fuel mileage worked out for them. The other way, if they were to pit and then a caution came out quickly, drivers like Newgarden, Rossi, if they had not pit, they would lose a ton of positions, and then those drivers that had pitted would have gained a lot. It's set up for a pretty good race, and to where we did see as drivers were coming in and out of pit road, the age of the tires, a lot of passing when it came to the off cycle sequences. But if everyone was on the same sequence, it would have been a lot harder. So it sort of really did add a lot to this race. It was disruptive at first, but overall, it was just something where they had a shot of win, but all those cautions at the end just equalized everybody.
Yeah, all those cautions that did definitely equalize everyone, but although didn't win the race, this strategy helped Felix Rosenqvist and Graham Rahal get a really good finish, especially Rahal, who didn't qualify well at all. It really helped him get a decent finish. It was really a great day for the Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan cars, with both Graham Rahal and Christian Lundgaard finishing in the top 10 and Jack Harvey in the top 15. Been really frustrating for the 3 RLL Hondas lately, especially with poor qualifying efforts. And and speaking of disruptive, Devlin DeFrancesco punted Will Power off the track, causing damage to his nose and a caution. And Devlin DeFrancesco got a stop and go penalty for avoidable contact with Will Power. Marcus Ericsson, Alex Palou, 2 Chip Ganassi racing teammates, got into each other. This took Palou out of contention all day. The Andretti teammates, Alexander Rossi, Roman Grosjean, Colton Hurd, all of them were battling very hard for a position. I'm sure at that point Michael Andretti wanted to look away, because that was a really treacherous moment to be a team owner, watching 3 of your cars just duking it out right there. And after the race, Will Power drove into Devlin DeFrancesco's car to send a message to the rookie, which is not a common sight in IndyCar. Usually, at the end of NASCAR races, we'll see drivers show their displeasure by giving them a bump at the end of the race. But in an open wheel single seater car like this, really unusual to see. So, Adam, were you surprised by how physical this race was?
Yeah, well, yeah, I was. And I you mentioned Kobe about the 3 Andretti Autosport cars that were battling with each other. If I were Michael Andretti, I would have been like this because one little slip up, and then all three of them could have been taken out, but it didn't happen. So, yeah, it was a very physical race. I was surprised that Alex Palou wasn't able to finish after small contact with his teammate Marcus Ericsson, and unfortunately he had to retire. And with what Devlin DeFrancesco did, I don't. Will Power won't forget this, and we sort of saw a tame Will Power because normally, if someone gets into Will Power, he doesn't take it too lightly. We've seen in previous years what could happen. So, yeah, I was surprised about the physicality of the race at Road America.
And I was telling you what was really more surprising to me. I've never seen Alex Palou that angry in my life. When he first came over to IndyCar, Alex Palou. Oh, and I see a day in the life was thinking the exact same thing as me. Yeah. As I was saying, I've never seen Palou that heated before. When he first come over to the NTT IndyCar series, he seemed very humble, mellow, a chill type of guy, and it seemed like nothing in the world could make him mad. But he was livid with Marcus Ericsson, and I was very surprised to see that coming out of Palou. So I guess Ericsson struck a nerve there. I have a feeling Chip Ganassi is going to sit them down on Monday morning tomorrow, and they're going to talk about it. They're going to shake hands and move on from the incident, and they have to really think about the bigger picture. Alex Palou, although he had a terrible day, he's still eligible to go out there and win this championship. Still a lot of racing to go. Marcus Ericsson is the championship points leader. So both Chip Ganassi Racing drivers certainly have a lot to play for here. And Adam brought up Will Power and Devlin DeFrancesco. I will say I'm very impressed to see how Will Power has matured over the years. The Will Power of 10 to 15 years ago, if I was Devlin DeFrancesco, I would have run in him in the Porta John or something like that, because Will Power probably would have shot him the infamous double bird that he's become a meme for on the internet, and Will Power would have said some things that you probably wouldn't be able to re-air on television. So really nice to see how Will Power has matured as well, and I'm sure this is going to be a learning experience for young Devlin DeFrancesco. I remember Devlin had an incident at his Motor Speedway, took out some veterans. They scolded him. He listened. Devlin came back, had a great Indy 500. Didn't make any enemies or have any issues there. And I'm sure Devlin's going to be able to learn from this incident as well at Road America. And we have 8 races. We're 8 races in right now, with 9 races remaining. As I mentioned, Marcus Ericsson's the championship points leader over Will Power by 27 points now. So starting with you, Joe, which 3 drivers are looking good for the championship at this point?
3 drivers I think are looking good for the championship at this point is Josef Newgarden. He has the most wins. He could prove if he has a good car and a great starting position, he is a contender to win that race. And he needs that good starting position. I mean, even what we saw in Detroit, he said he just didn't have the car. But as he said in Victory Lane, this is why he loves IndyCar so much. It is so hard to try to win each and every race. Marcus Ericsson, after last year where he got the wins and down to get the Indianapolis 500 win, I feel he has a confidence we haven't seen in him before, where he could go out there, race for wins. He's not just trying to get a good finish. He's going there trying to get second place, trying to hunt down a victory. And then Will Power. What happened today, it was a tough break for him, but it stresses the importance of qualifying. If he was up further towards the front, he'd be further away from DeFrancesco. If it was further up towards the front, he could focus on just trying to get the lead, battling with some of the drivers that we see constantly week in and week out, compared to the last lap or the last couple of laps during one of the restarts. He gets pushed off the track by Rinus VeeKay. So those are the 3 drivers I feel are contenders when it comes to the championship. And one comment in the chat room, Road America is consistently the most aggressive race on the calendar. There's always plenty of hip checks and blocking everywhere. I'm surprised IndyCar doesn't crack down on anyone. We definitely saw a lot of hip checking and contact throughout this race.
And Joe, I have to agree with your three drivers as well. Marcus Ericsson, after winning the Indy 500, yeah, that was a double points race, but there's 9 races remaining. Marcus Ericsson is a legitimate championship contender. Josef Newgarden, his first win of the year was at Texas Motor Speedway, and he came ahead of his teammate Scott McLaughlin on a last lap pass. And the last one has got to be Will Power. That Kiwi is sensational. Yeah, he may not have had a good race today at Road America, but I wouldn't count him out for the championship. There's still a long way to go to determine this year's NTT INDYCAR Series championship. And you mentioned one other driver, Joe. Don't count out the defending champion, Alex Palou. He could steal away the championship from everyone if he has some strong finishes going forward.
Yes, for sure. And my three drivers who I think going to be going for their championship at this point after Road America, I think obviously, as you guys said, look at Marcus Ericsson. I think Ericsson, as you said, Joe, we're seeing him drive unlike anything we've seen before. I think his confidence right now is sky high at the top of the mountain, and he really has all that confidence and momentum, and that's going to serve him well moving forward as we get deeper into this IndyCar season. And Dan the Life says Marcus would be a surprise champion if he got the championship at this point. Yeah, I do see what you're saying there. A day in the life. I mean, a lot of I'm not really sure how to describe this, but it's where Marcus is a contender now, week in and week out, whether it's a street course or road course on an oval. And remember, nobody really picked him, but our colleague Joshua Birch in the UK to win the Indianapolis 500. Marcus Ericsson is kind of like a sneaky assassin. He's there. He's showing his worth, but still, everyone overlooks him. And I'm sure if Marcus Ericsson is able to go on and win the championship, he's going to earn a lot more respect from his competitors and people in the industry and fans alike. And the second driver, I think, is going to still be in contention is Will Power. Obviously, he had an off day, but Will Power has been doing extremely well with his consistency throughout the season. If you exclude all the outliers we've seen, well, the few outliers that we've seen so far from Will Power. So I think he can put this back race behind him and bounce back quickly and really keep and continue getting those top 5, those top 10 finishes and going for the race wins. And I think the obvious third driver that has to be a favorite for the championship is Josef Newgarden. Three wins already this season on an oval, road course, street course, took home the $1 million. I think Newgarden probably has just as much momentum right now as Marcus Ericsson, or just about the same. So I think Josef Newgarden is gonna be coming in hot, and he's gonna inch closer and closer to taking that championship lead, especially if his current form continues.
If his current form continues, he's going to be hard to beat. We see a day in the life history. Award, Ericsson, and Newgarden. Can't count out Award. He is pretty good there. And then from Michael Tiller, don't let your emotion get the best of you. Look at what almost happened between Michael Schumacher and David Coulthard at Belgium 1998. Oh boy, that was something where we saw those two make contact, and boy, was Schumacher angry. I can't recall Schumacher being angry anytime before or after at that level. Still a lot to talk about. And of course, that leaves us with NASCAR. Sonoma Raceway hosting the Toyota Save Mart 350. And this race, new car, new course layout with the chute. Different weather conditions. It was cloudy and much cooler compared to Saturday when they were getting near 100 degrees. We also have a new first-time Cup Series winner, Daniel Suarez. The journey has been tough. He was rushed to the Cup with Gibbs, then pushed out, went to Haas, then dropped to Gaunt Brothers Racing. Really struggled with that team. Then last year he joined Trackhouse Racing. This is his second year with that team. The team expanded. His teammate, Rasha Hassan, got 2 wins. Well, today he added his name as a winner in Trackhouse Racing, sealing the deal. everyone on that cool down lap was coming up congratulating him, from Kurt Busch, Chase Elliott. Everyone was talking about how he's such a nice guy. He's done so much for the sport, including having all his amigos at the track, over 400 in Sonoma. Huge win. Adam, how big of a win is this for Suarez, Trackhouse, and the sport?
Well, F1 driver and fellow countryman Sergio Perez congratulated Daniel Suarez on Twitter. That's saying something. This was huge. Daniel Suarez has been so close on a number of occasions this year and hasn't pulled through. Today, he did it. And how cool was it to see him burst a taco pinata after he won? I don't think it's the last time we're going to see a taco pinata smashed this year. You even had Fox Sports. They had Spanish commentators at the race as well, and they don't do many races in Spanish. And the commentary from that was incredible. If you can, go to Twitter and find it. The commentator did an excellent job of calling Suarez's first victory. You had and the parties down in Mexico are going to be crazy, crazy, crazy. Daniel's Team Trackhouse is a team that you cannot count out, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of those drivers is in the championship 4 when we get to Phoenix. Team Trackhouse Racing, yeah, they are for real.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Adam. Team Trackhouse is absolutely for real. And I have to say, poor food over at Trackhouse. You got Ross Chastain smashing watermelons, and then you have taco pinatas with Daniel Suarez. I have to say, Trackhouse is probably the most fun, innovative team in the NASCAR Cup Series right now. And this is a monumental victory for the sport, for Daniel Suarez to get this victory, coming from Mexico, chasing his dream, learning how to speak English, really taking the hard way to try to make it. He believed in himself. He came to America, but believed that he could be a NASCAR driver, and look exactly where he is today. And on Ben Snyder posted a quote from Daniel Suarez from inside the media center in Sonoma, and Suarez was asked about the NASCAR Drive for Diversity program, and he gave kudos to the Drive for Diversity program. Basically, it gave him the opportunity to be here. So, and he basically said, without NASCAR's Drive for Diversity program, he wouldn't be here today. We would never know who Daniel Suarez was, and with Suarez becoming a Mexican-born driver to win a NASCAR Cup Series, Daniel McFadden pointed out something very interesting on Twitter, the most motorsports journalist, that right now of active race winners we have in the NASCAR Cup Series, we have an Asian American NASCAR champion, Kyle Larson. We have an African American race winner from Talladega, Bubba Wallace. We have a Cuban American race winner in Eric Almirola, and now we have a Mexican-born driver, Daniel Suarez, winning a NASCAR Cup Series. And NASCAR traditionally hasn't been very diverse, and nice to see a lot of diversity now among the race winners. This was a really massive victory for Daniel Suarez. It's really validation for him. He knew he had this in him, and Ben also brought up a good point. Is it just goes to show you that we often write off drivers way too soon, because we all know this is a "what have you done for me lately" type of sport, and not just motorsports, but any sport in general, football, baseball, hockey, basketball, all of those sports. And if you're not winning and performing well out of the gate, a lot of people are going to come calling for your job, and they're really gonna think you're not capable of performing. So I do agree with what Ben said. I think that a lot of people really wrote off Suarez because of early struggles in his NASCAR Cup Series career, and a lot of people can also argue he was rushed up too soon when Carl Lewis abruptly retired, then bounced around, and now he has a team, an organization that really believes in him Justin Marks believes in him. Pitbull believes in him. Everyone at Trackhouse believes in him, and their motto is "Why not us?" So I get so yeah. So it was just a really special day for that entire organization. So why not Daniel Suarez, who can potentially go on and win more NASCAR Cup Series races?
And before I add in my points as well, a couple of comments in the channel. Mike Tillier, Ericsson's definitely a top pick for me when it comes to the championship. And of course, we encourage everyone in the chat room, be sure to share your comments, questions on the air. Even if we're done talking about F1, IndyCar, we'll still try our best to answer your questions as well. We love to hear from you. And be sure to like and subscribe, especially if you want to continue seeing more of our programs. This race win for Suarez, it's huge. Obviously, for his career, he's been through so much, 195 starts, getting that first win. This is that big confidence boost. You could go out there, you could get more wins, secure yourself in the playoffs, and then, of course, you get wins in the playoffs, even better. For Trackhouse, when you look at the teams that have 3 wins this year, you're looking at Joe Gibbs. You're looking at several teams that have 3 wins or more. I mean, Hendrick Motorsports, of course, all their drivers win, so they have more than 3 wins. Penske, they have 3 wins. Trackhouse, this is not just a team that got lucky on a road course with Ross Chastain. They didn't just get lucky with Ross Chastain earning his 2nd win. They are real deal racers. Both of them are up towards the front. Some bad luck, but now both drivers have a win. I anticipate a lot more. And with Trackhouse, we got to remember Justin Marks, he brought this with Pitbull, and he wanted to do something different, saying we want to bring NASCAR to more urban area kids, teach them about the science of the sport, make it more inclusive, doing things different. What they're doing with Project 91, this is just proof that Justin Marks, he really is doing a lot for the sport as a team owner. He got a successful team owner. He's bringing a lot of excitement to the motorsport of NASCAR, not just through his team success, but with Project 91, with the programs he's doing. And Daniel Suarez, I think, is just another great addition. And one of the big things I have to say, very surprising race. We only had 4 cautions during the entire event. And of course, 2 of them were for the stage breaks. And anyone that did not pit before the stage breaks, they really struggled. 1 round of green flag pit stops during that final stage, but at the end, it really seemed like the stages, the tire wear, everyone was sort of boxed in. Kobe, compared to what we saw in the IndyCar race with multiple strategies, people pitting off cycle, different tire strategies as well. Did the stage box everyone to forgo the stage points, especially if they were focused on getting that win?
Well, Joe, I think a lot of people really don't like stages on the road course. I know a lot of people don't like stage racing in general, but when they throw the caution at the end of the stage break on the road course, it really takes a lot of the strategy out the window and really messes up the race. I think on the road courses in the future, and NASCAR should really look into, or maybe just in general, all the stages. You can still award the stage points, but just keep the race green like we see in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, Michelin Endurance Cup races. So when the 6 hour mark comes around in the Rolex 24, or whenever they award the points, you keep the race green, and IMSA they don't stop the race and bunch with the field and throw a caution. I think NASCAR should take a page out of IMSA's book. I mean, NASCAR owns IMSA, so why not use that rule? But yeah, you were right, Joe. For those who stayed out and collected the stage points, they weren't really gonna be in serious contention of winning the race. If you wanted to win the race, you had to pit before the end of the stage break, because then everyone who stayed out, they came in under the stage break, and then those who already pitted, they were able to resume the positions they were right before they came to pit road. So once again, this brings up the conversation about stage racing on road courses. Does it stay? Does it need to go, or do we just need to keep the race green? Because it really seems like the stages have really taken the strategy element out of road course racing in NASCAR.
It took the strategy element out. And one of the things, especially I felt it was a defining moment, after Joey Logano won that second stage, they interviewed him. And he just said, well, we know we can't win the race. Let's get the stage points as well. So and I think it really showed that maybe for the road course, it should change. Day in the life, no more stages. Well, if we could at least get rid of the stage cautions, I think that would be a good start for the road courses. Now, of course, last year, Kyle Larson, and another comment, I'm with Kobe, lose the stages. I think we're getting the idea, get rid of the stages for the road courses, or at least the stage cautions. When it comes to last year, Kyle Larson, he swept this entire race. He won stage one. He won the second stage. He came back, won the third stage, and those times he started restarting the back because he stayed out, worked his way to the front to get those stage wins and the race win. This year, that did not work. He did not have the car to come all the way back to the front. In fact, by the second stage, he did what everyone was doing, pit before the stage break. Then that third stage, as he was running and during the green flag pit stops, that's when the disaster struck. A front right wheel came off as he was exiting pit road. So we know we got a 4-week penalty coming for that team. Adam, how much is this going to hurt Kyle Larson's team knowing they're going to lose Cliff Daniels and another crew member for 4 weeks?
Oh, I think this is going to hurt him a lot. I don't know if you could say Kyle Larson is in a sophomore slump after what we saw from him last year. I know it's a different car compared to this year, but it seems like Kyle Larson really hasn't had the momentum compared to what we've seen last year. Kyle Larson, he is in the playoffs after his win at Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California earlier this year, but he really hasn't had the pace, since then. In the next 4 weeks that the Cup Series is on, you have Nashville Super Speedway, you have the road course at Road America, and then you got a New Hampshire Motor Speedway, which is a 1-mile track in Loudon, New Hampshire, and then you have Atlanta, and that's 4 completely different tracks. And he won't have his crew chief Cliff Daniels with him. I think that's going to hurt Kyle Larson a whole lot in those 4 weeks.
Hugely disappointing to lose Kyle Larson, especially at those tracks coming up. But of course, they could try to do something like what Denny Hamlin do, appeal it and push that off to later. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens come Monday. I'm pretty sure that's when we're going to hear some news about that. And of course, a lot of people anticipate Kyle Larson, he was going to sort of, after the Coca-Cola 600, him or another team get win after win, really show what they can do. Well, here we are. We still don't really seem to have a clear-cut contender favorite going out there. I mean, look at this race weekend. Toyota, they were nowhere today, nowhere in contention for a win. Chase Elliott, Hendrick Motorsports, that was sort of the one shining moment for Hendrick Motorsports. And Elliott, pit stop mistake, that ruined his day. Byron Bowman, they were just not in contention. In fact, Bowman having all sorts of adventures, avoiding spinning Kyle Busch, and so on. Penske, Austin Cindric, we know he's good in the road courses. He performed well. Ryan Blaney, he's up there, but just seems to not be at the level to get a win. And Joey Logano was just nowhere in sight. Some other racers, Eric Jones, countless spins. It just doesn't seem like we have a team like last year where Kyle Larson, he came to Nashville Super Speedway where he got his 4th win of the year. Kobe, I'm starting with you. Seeing that there's no team pulling away with win after win, we got 10 weeks left in this regular season. How vital is it to get a win, not only for the winless drivers, but for those with wins to prevent 5 different drivers? Because 5 more different drivers that win, you could have 17 different winners.
Yeah, it's going to be extremely important for the one-win drivers to try to get a second win, especially if you're towards the bottom of the single race winners so far this season. So if you're like an Austin Cindric who won the Daytona 500, remember after we saw a Cup Series rookie won the Daytona 500, remember when we came on the wrap-up show, we said, wow, Austin Cindric is going to be in the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. And based on the number of race winners we've seen so far and seeing how competitive it is now in the NASCAR Cup Series, you can't really say right now that Austin Cindric is definitely a lot to be in the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, so it's going to be extremely important for all of those drivers to really try to break through and get a second win. And mentioning Austin Cindric, he's going to have some really good tracks for him coming up. He got a top 5 result today at Sonoma. Austin Cindric's been known to be a great road course racer, and then in the regular season got some other road courses coming up. You have Road America coming up for the NASCAR Cup Series in a few weeks' time. Then you got the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. You got Watkins Glen as well. So places where Austin Cindric can potentially get a second win in his NASCAR Cup Series rookie campaign, and we saw some hard racing between Austin Cindric and Ryan Blaney. It seemed like there's been some turmoil between those teammates when they've been together racing on the track. And Joe, gotta mention Toyota as well. You were right; they were nowhere today. The best finish in Toyota was Kurt Busch in 18th place, and then the other Toyotas, Martin Truex Jr. 26th. Christopher Bell 27th, Kyle Busch in 30th, Denny Hamlin in 31st, and then Bubba Wallace had the engine failure very early in the race, dead last in 36th place. And it was a really dismal day for Toyota. 23-11, Kurt Busch did the best he can. Bubba Wallace had the engine failure, and then Joe Gibbs racing across the board. They just had a really, really bad day, very uncharacteristic for Joe Gibbs racing, and for Toyota to have a bad race in the race that's called the Toyota Save Mart 350. Definitely not good at all, especially since there's a large Toyota presence in California too.
I agree with everything you said, Kobe. Joe Gibbs really wasn't up there at all today, and if I were some of these drivers with one win, I would be scared right now, because you have some tracks coming up where you could potentially see some new winners, make their way into the playoffs. Don't forget, we have drivers like Kevin Harvick hasn't won for a long time. Brad Keselowski, after what happened at Daytona, he hasn't had a good start to the season, and he wants to win to get into the playoffs. If I were some of these drivers with one win, I would be afraid right now. That one win, it could potentially not get you in. We have a lot of good tracks coming up on the schedule. So if I were some of these one-win drivers, I would start to go out there and try to get as many wins as you can.
Try to get the wins as you can. A comment in the chat room. Still find it hard to believe there will be 16 different winners. It's still a stretch, but we know, I believe it was Bob Pockris that asked Austin Cindric about that, and Austin Cindric was like, yeah, I was looking at who was getting that up front towards the end, so it's going to be really interesting as the other drivers start paying attention who's up there. Because, yeah, we got Nashville where we've only had one cup race there. Kyle Larson won that, but of course, totally new car, different package. Who knows what's going to happen? May not be Kyle Larson, an easy favorite. And of course, that's not this upcoming weekend. This is the only off weekend for the NASCAR Cup Series. So we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. Kyle Larson trying to get another win at Nashville, become the only driver to still win there. But we have to wait 2 more weekends as NASCAR is taking their break. But one group that is not taking their break, us here at the Grid Network, because the grid ranking will still be going on next weekend.
Yeah. Now looking at week 11, which is seeing the biggest changes in the grid ranking this season. Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez both gained 1 spot each. The first time both Red Bull drivers are in the grid ranking top 10. Charles Leclerc has fallen out of the top 10 all the way down to 18th. And Carlos Sainz in 33rd, Marcus Ericsson, Josef Newgarden both right outside the top 10. Ross Chastain's in the top 10. Kurt Busch has fallen completely out of the grid ranking. Ryan Blaney has entered, though. Some like Charles Leclerc, Alex Palou, and Ross Chastain, drivers who started off really strong, their consistency is really dropping off lately. While Red Bull, Fabio Quartararo from MotoGP, and surprisingly Stoffel Van Dorn from Formula E have stepped up their consistency. So, Joe, in your opinion, who's been your biggest surprise?
Stoffel Van Dorn, Formula E. Generally, Formula E, we talk about it being the Wheel of Destiny series, where you have no idea who's going to win. This year, you have Stoffel Van Dorn. You got from DS Yoshida, John Eric Verne, and Eduardo Montara. Those three look like solid championship contenders. And Mitch Evans having a really good season. They're really starting to pull themselves away from the rest of the pack compared to past years where you've had 8 different winners in that series. NASCAR, we always know is going to be so hard to be consistent. I think a lot of people anticipated that this year with the new car, but I think nobody really anticipated Kyle Larson to be with just one win. Ross Chastain to have 2 wins and the consistency level where he was and still is the only NASCAR driver in the top 10. I think that's a huge surprise. And then Red Bull, I think if we had said last year both Red Bull drivers will be in the top 10 in 2022, I think a lot of people would not believe that. Sergio Perez has really stepped up his game. The consistency is showing in what he's been doing. And I think Grid Wrinkling does a good job at reflecting the consistency level going on right now.
Yeah, for sure. And now taking a look at the full grid ranking next weekend, Shane Van Gisbergen Supercars return. Shane Van Gisbergen coming off his 24 hours of Le Mans debut in the GT Pro category with Raleigh Motorsports and a Ferrari. Shane got some real good experience at Circuit de la Sarthe, and I'm sure he's going to be back next time and try to do a little bit better. Try to get on the podium and get a win at Le Mans. And Formula One and MotoGP are going to be racing, so half of the top 10 are going to be on track next weekend. And be sure to follow the Grid Ranking at Grid Ranking on Twitter and our website, gridranking.com, if you want to learn more about the Grid Ranking. Plus, our Endurance Performance Index is coming out for sports car racing. Matt White introduced that last Wednesday night on Grid Tonight. And and you can be sure to catch another episode of Grid Tonight this Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And then Tuesday, the day before, you're going to see a special Grid Live Encore and Snyder, who's going to be coming back from Sonoma Raceway out in California, and to end the work with the Women in Motorsports on Saturday, doing it all over again. Grid Live pre-race right here on Grid Network.
And before we close our show, we had a cornucopia of motorsports action from across the world, with not just the races that we talked about, but like you mentioned, Kobe, the 24 hours of Le Mans was taking place as well. And our colleague Joshua Birch was doing the full 24 hours on his YouTube channel. So if you want to see how he did it, be sure to subscribe to his YouTube channel. He was a pretty busy guy over there in the UK all weekend long. And now it's time for our Grid One Shining Moment from this extravaganza of motorsports weekend. So I'll start with you, Coley. What's your Grid One Shining Moment?
Well, to be honest with you, Adam, I actually have 3 Grid One Shining moments this week. I can't think of one, so I'll try to be brief with each of them. My first Grid One Shining moment, obviously, isn't a surprise. It's Daniel Suarez. It's because of the story of everything Daniel Suarez has gone through to reach this point. You know, coming to the United States from Mexico, learning how to speak English, establish the right connections, going through NASCAR Drive for Diversity program, becoming a NASCAR Xfinity Series champion, thinking you're going to run another year in Xfinity, and all of a sudden, Carl Edwards retired. There's nobody to put in that other Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota.
You're gonna run
Daniel Suarez, you are up. So Daniel Suarez was really put in a really tough position to try to go out there as a young driver who really wasn't ready to be a NASCAR Cup Series driver at that point and expected to perform at a high level. Suarez had a few good runs at Joe Gibbs Racing, but overall, when Martin Truex Jr. had won the championship with Furniture Row and Furniture Row was shutting down, Joe Gibbs Racing decided to cut their losses and put a NASCAR Cup Series champion in that number 19 car, and then Suarez had to move on to Stewart-Haas Racing. It didn't really go well for Stewart-Haas Racing. Well for Daniel Suarez during his Stewart-Haas Racing stint, and then when Cole Custer was performing extremely well in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and especially since Cole Custer's father, Joe Custer, works at Stewart-Haas Racing in a top executive role, it was a no-brainer to put him in that Haas Automotive number 41 Ford. So Daniel Suarez on the move again. Then he had to go to Gaunt Brothers Racing. It was a Toyota power team, but they were small and underfunded. And Daniel Suarez reached the lowest of the low when he fell in to qualify for the Daytona 500, got involved in a wreck on his duels, and it was just a really tough year for Suarez when he was with Gaunt Brothers. And then he made it home to Trackhouse. It's definitely his house now. A team that believes in him, as I said, and it's incredible to see the trajectory of Daniel Suarez's career from coming to the United States, rising up the NASCAR ladder as a NASCAR Xfinity champion, going to one of the top organizations in NASCAR, then going to another one, then going to an organization where just finishing on elite lap is a big victory week in and week out. And now he's with a team that could potentially be a championship contender for many years to come. And I see you got a comment there from Amber. You say you missed most of the show, but how about Daniel's win? Yes, it was a real special win, Amber. And thank you for watching. And if you want to see what we've been talking about throughout the show, you can go back and watch it later on your own time. And my second, I know I talked a little bit longer, but my second one shining moment is Daniel Suarez's crew chief, Travis Mack. A lot of people forget that Travis Mack has battled adversity on his own. Coming up from Junior Motorsports and Xfinity Series, he got a chance to join Levine Family Racing as Casey Kane's crew chief. And then Travis Mack got let go from Levine Family Racing. He was made the scapegoat of their struggles with that number 95 car with Casey Kane. Then Matt went back home to the Xfinity Series with Junior Motorsports, and he got the promotion to come all the way back up to the NASCAR Cup Series with Trackhouse, and now he's a NASCAR Cup Series winning crew chief. So I'm sure that's some redemption there for Travis Mack. And my third and final one shining moment goes to Francois Perotto from the 24 Hours of Le Mans. During Le Mans, the Corvette racing was leading in GT Pro, and Perotto, who was driving the AF Corsa LMP2 car, wasn't paying attention, and he turned the wheel into the Corvette, who was leading at the time, and crashed him out of the 24 Hours. Le Mans Corvette was absolutely heartbroken, and Perotto, he was equally as heartbroken for them, and he was the bigger person in this situation. He went to the Corvette garage and apologized to everyone in there, shook hands and expressed genuine remorse. So I thought that was very classy of Francois Perotto to do that. And those are my great one shining moments this week.
Easily, Daniel Suarez has to be one shiny moment. I also want to acknowledge Simona De Silvestro and Tatiana Calderon, two female racers in the IndyCar Series racing today. That was huge. It said last time we had two female racers was the Indianapolis 500. I don't exactly remember the year, but I believe it was when we still had Danica Patrick and another racer. So it's been a long time. That was very exciting to see. We have Mike Tillier. My shining moment has to be Pierre Gasly, P5 for today Grand Prix. His best finish thus far this season, come to think about it. Yeah, AlphaTauri not exactly having the season they want. And another honorable mention, Vettel finishing sixth in today's race as well. Glad to see good points there. We'd love to see him continue from that. And of course, he had that issue where he went off the track when trying to get around Ocon, spun it around, got going, sixth place finish. What an effort for the Aston Martin team.
And for me, I have two great one shining moments. The first one goes to the 24 Hours of Le Mans. It was really nice to see the race back at its traditional June date. Nice to see all the fans that were there at Circuit de la Sarthe in France. And the Toyota Gazoo racing cars were completely dominant throughout the entire 24 hours. They finished 1-2 in the race, and it was nice to see everyone there. And our colleague Daniel Zeri from Racer Girls Behind the Helmet, he was actually at Le Mans, covering all the females that were there. And you can go to his Instagram page if you want pictures and videos of the action from Le Mans. And my second one has to go to our colleague Joshua Birch. If you don't know, Joshua was a trooper this weekend. Not only did he cover the 24 Hours of Le Mans, he covered everything from Azerbaijan. He covered the INDYCAR race from North America. He covered 3 British Touring Car Championship races today. And what he did, he is a trooper. And if you want to buy a coffee for one of our Grid Network members, I would suggest you do it for Josh. He has earned it this weekend through and through. So to me, my true Grid 1 shining moments has to go to everything that happened at Le Mans and our colleague Joshua Birch. He is a trooper through and through.
With that said, we encourage everyone to be sure to visit the Buy Me a Coffee and our Patreon monthly contribution investment into the Grid Network, calling the show, Mark and Robin, keeping us on the air throughout the year. And of course, we're all over social media as well: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and now we're live streaming on our LinkedIn page. Visit our LinkedIn page. Be sure to follow us. And of course, if you happen to be away from YouTube or just taking a break from YouTube, you can watch us on Twitch, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. All our live streaming content is there as well. And public.com, the social media page for the stock market. Use the referral code GridNet. You get $5 in free stock to invest in the stock market. So don't have to put in your own money first. Learn about it because they got tools, podcasts to learn about all the trends going on, help you be better invested in the stock market. Public.com. And a couple of last comments in the chat room. I'm with you, Adam. Perez doing well this season has proved his worth. Or did I hit it out wrong? I believe you got it correctly. But yeah, what Perez is doing, proving all the doubters from last year that said, oh, he's not going to last. He is up there and just putting on together a great run. We want to thank everyone in the chat room. Very busy chat room today. We enjoy it. It's always a lot of fun hearing from you. And we hope to see you in more Grid programming this week. For Adam Lemeries and Kobe Lambis from the Podium Finish, I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you for watching and have a good evening. Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GridNet for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on public.com.